Hey, I didn't ask you, but so Dean and I did the score. You know, you write your score down where you think you're at, and then your spouse writes the score down. Did you go home and do that 2 weeks ago? Huh? How any were we good on the numbers? Oh, we got quiet. You know, the husband says it's a 9, and the wife says it's a 4, or reverse around. And so if you didn't do that exercise, do it. And and um, and it's a great. It's really your self check who you are. Okay. And I think I mentioned this to you guys that for some of you guys that grocery shop, I kind of like grocery shopping. Okay. Because it's people watch time. I like people watching. Okay. But when you're carrying your groceries, you always know where the dozen eggs are, and you always know where they're at in the cart, and you always know what bag they're in when you're carrying them into the house. Because if you don't, and there's a problem with them, um, there's no way you can repair broken eggs. And so I just want to say to you with your marriage, always know where it's at, always know what bag it's in, and always know how to treat it. Because that extra work that you do will supersede ever trying to put it back together. Okay? That's good. You're going to look at eggs different now the rest of your life. I mean, even look at them before you buy them, right? And so I just encourage that. Hey, tonight we're going to talk about conflict resolution. Woman, get back here. I'm not done with you yet. And conflict resolution, there are roadblocks that we hit that we just can't resolve this one issue. Okay? Which we know leads not to a very good ending. And so Pastor Dina has put together a great sheet that we'll kind of go through to help you resolve conflict. Okay? Jesus said, in this world, you're going to be offended and you're going to get hurt. And how you respond in that determines how you live your life. And we know this, that people that have never been able to get over unforgiveness, hurt people always hurt other people. And if you struggle in an area of unforgiveness, that will be the thread of your marriage. And we're imperfect. And conflict will always, listen to me now, conflict is the doorway to intimacy. Okay? Conflict is a doorway to intimacy. And as you use some of the things we'll give you tonight to resolve conflict, it'll strengthen your marriage. Because I can't say to you you're never going to have conflict. Okay, you're going to have conflict. And it's going to change a lot. We've conflict about how we raise our kids. So for me, I was like, whatever. And I was the guy they came to get permission. Is that good? And so we had conflict of raising the kids. And just know my way was always the best way. We have conflict how we manage our money. It's a big one. Is how to manage money. You can just go right on down the list of things that we have conflict with. So if you have your handouts, and did anybody have anything they want to share tonight about a conflict you're currently having? No. What's that?
Nothing. I was just. Oh, there we go. All right. This didn't work Sunday, so I was just making sure it was working.
Oh, and
He figured out how to keep me to shut up, so I'll keep my mouth shut. All right.
so just another thing that you should know. Um, the disciples went to Jesus and said, "When are you coming back? When are you coming back to get us?" And he said, he says, I don't know. He says, the angels don't know. Only the Father knows when I'm coming back. But he said, I'll give you a couple hints of when it's about time I am coming back. So there'll be wars and rumors of wars. There'll be famines. There'll be earthquakes. There'll be natural disasters. But he said there'll be another thing is that people that used to love each other will begin to hate each other. It's a sign I'm ready to come back. And so in marriage, those that used to love each other will begin to hate each other. Okay? And never give up. Never, ever give up. And so we see families around the holidays won't even come together because a lot of them don't love each other. And so there's going to be a continued pouring out of hatred on the earth for those that used to love each other will begin to hate each other. Jesus said that's a sign that it's close for me to come back and rapture the church off the earth. So just know that there's an assignment on your marriage. We're trying to give you things today through this series to help secure your marriage. Okay? So conflict resolution. Woman, get back here. I'm not done with you yet. Okay? As we resolve conflict, on the handout you have, the challenges are inevitable in marriage. It's how we resolve them that matters. Okay? The word resolve there is the first blank. And how we resolve them. There's some steps to resolving down in the handout. And then this is one that we've used too in our teachings. And they're kind of baked in here, but yield, withdraw, resolve, win, and compromise are some ways to resolve conflict. And the world teaches us you got to win. You got to win. Don't ever be a wimp. Okay? But in marriage, it's about compromise. And withdraw. How many in here are withdrawers? When you get there, just like I'm withdrawing. Okay? Now, that's a method to resolve the conflict that's not very effective. Because when we withdraw, we don't put value on the relationship. Okay? Because we say, get back here. No, I'm done. You win, I'm out of here. So it's the compromise. And how you approach it, it's not getting through it, but how you approach the relationship determines how you resolve conflict. And this has to be the most important thing, that how I resolve the conflict is based on how I value the relationship. Okay. And men, your wife is tender. And harsh words from a man close her spirit up, just like that. And then we spend a lot of time trying to reopen up the spirit so that she'll listen. And so it's how we resolve determines that matters. The second statement there, the goal of resolving conflict in a relationship is not victory or defeat. Victory is the blank there. It is reaching, understanding, and letting go of our need to be right. How many in here just need to be right? And then when you need to be right, the other one usually just walks away, right? You don't need to be right all the time. Compromise is the way. When you compromise in resolving conflict, you value the relationship more than the issue. When you compromise in resolving conflict, you value the relationship more than the issue. Okay? Third one there is conflict resolution comes with trust and truth for a resolution. Conflict resolution comes with trust and truth of a resolution. Excuse me. As you go through conflicts and you learn how to resolve them, there's more coming. You won't just go through a conflict and say, hallelujah, there's never another one. And there's others coming because we go through phases of life. Like, do you ever have a conflict of where you're going to spend the holidays? Huh? We're going to my parents' house.
Let's take it a little deeper, like what we do when we get where we're going.
What do we do?
Like you told me, you're not fishing and hunting all weekend. So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So there's always conflict. Holidays can be the most conflictual. But this place of trust and truth. And so we have to be truthful. He learned a long time ago. I just learned him. I was like, what are we doing this week? And we were actually, before we were coming here, like, man, you need to get a haircut tonight. When we get home, I'll cut your hair. And he's like, he's like, no, we can do it up there. Yeah, great. We'll do it up in Michigan. I know. First thing Wednesday morning, he's on that fishing boat with his brothers. Truth. Okay? So now you have to work through the schedule and those type of things. So we're always have opportunities. But if we don't give the truth, and if you're not a place, let me tell you, one of the greatest ways that conflict resolution can be thwarted is when we're not a place of confidentiality. And you have to build a place of trust. That doesn't mean when you go through something, you call your girlfriend on the phone. Guys are pretty good about keeping things to themselves. It's just the way God kind of made them. But us women, we feel like we have to talk to somebody else about it at times, and when, or if he would ever find out some of the things that you're working through conflict from someone else. It's one of, as we work with couples, one of the most difficult things that can transpire, because then the element of trust is broken as far as even working through situations together. So you know what, we've worked with a lot of people and who've gone through affairs, and first thing we tell them is don't tell anybody, if all possible. We're going to believe God can reconcile and rebuild a place of trust, but the more people that know, the more difficult it is for that person to return in a place of a relationship. So your spouse's mistakes, your spouse's difficulties, the things you're working through conflict on don't need to be known by other people. Because once that gets out there, then it makes it difficult to have a place of trust. The Bible says love protects. And love protects his weakness. Love protects my weakness as we work through it. If you need advice, you might need to call a pastor or a life group leader. There's nothing wrong with getting advice, but you really want to protect one another and their strengths and weaknesses in that. So it's an important thing.
The best way to address conflict is in the early stages. In the early stages. So we're getting ready to buy a house. We're living in a little shoebox house.
No, with mice, like lots of mice.
And we're getting ready to
Did I say lots of mice?
we're getting ready to buy a house, and so Dina's in my hometown. My whole family's there, and she's 480 miles from home, but she's in my hometown, and I so value my dad's opinion. So I go to my dad, and we look 3-4 houses, and this one house we looked at, she says, "Honey, I love that house. I love it. I can see us in that house." I said, "I like it too." I said, "But," I said, let me talk to my dad." "Huh, okay. But I love it. I want that house." Okay. So I take my dad over there. I don't take her, right? And we're probably, 4 years married, 3 years married. And 3 years into it, we don't have a lot of fights by then. Or not fights, aren't the right word. I'm sorry.
Conflict.
Intense fellowship. So I take my dad over there, and we get out. We go through the house, and then we get out in the driveway, and my dad says, "You don't want that house." I go, "Why?" "Oh, you don't want it. It's kind of small here. It doesn't fit the neighborhood, and you're going to outgrow it too soon, and the resale value probably won't work, and you don't want to buy this house." I said, "Are you sure?" "Yeah, you don't want it." Okay. So I go home, and she goes, "Oh, honey, what'd your dad think?" I said, "We're not buying that house." Southern blood. she started talking in a southern accent.
It wasn't one of my finer moments.
And she said, I thought I married you. I didn't know I married your dad. I said, now, easy. And, but, that really hurt her. And it took us a long time to resolve that conflict. And the remedy was I really had to go to my dad and say, I value you so much, but there's some input that that I can't receive going forward because this was a real problem for me. And but at the end of the day, we made the right decision, right?
Right. Then we bought your mother's house.
We bought my mother's house.
That is the truth.
But
Like when he said it took a long time to resolve that conflict, like 15 years, but it's okay.
But early stages, listen. See what happens if you don't resolve it in the early stage, then that conflict will be the mountain that other conflicts get attached to, and then your home is wars and rumors of wars. There's no peace in your home because that one that's unresolved in the early stage goes to a bigger stage, and then everything now is a battle.
That's true.
Okay, so you have to get that one behind you, and we got it behind us. And I hurt her. I hurt Dina really bad through that process, and she forgave me, and she loves me. Okay, because I'm not perfect.
He's close.
She is. Okay. You ever live with an angel?
He's trying to make up for it, but it's okay.
She's got the wings. Okay, the the greatest skill you need in conflict resolution is apologizing. Man,
Yeah.
Honey, I'm so sorry.
He's very good at that.
I'm so sorry. And then you know what she'll say? No, you're not. You ever use that one? It doesn't sound like you mean it. I don't know how else to say it.
Yeah, I got to tell you this quick story. It's true. You get better at it. If you guys are already great at it, you have peace in your home. And we went through, I was so competitive. I heard somebody tell me one time when I was like 5 years into marriage, like, oh, when you get to 20 years, you just wait. You're going to be here. And I'm like, don't tell me that. Like, I'm like a competitor. I'm like, I'm good at it now. I wasn't. We look back and we realize so many things we learned in marriage over time. But I tell this story, but there was a time that he had really upset me, and he came into the house to tell me that he was sorry, and he kept just saying, babe, I'm really sorry. Okay? Now let me help you with this. Apologizing is a great skill, and it's important, but we're going to learn this process of being understood. I didn't really even realize what I was saying, but I looked at him just because I'm choleric like that, and I just responded and goes, you can't be sorry. I'm not done telling you yet how I feel. Like, stop saying you're sorry. And he really meant it. He knew he had messed up, but I wanted to be understood. And guys, for the most part, depending on, we're going to look at personalities, women feel. So they need you to understand those feelings. And don't sit there and surf the station or act like you're bored to death with her feelings. Okay? But healing comes through understanding feelings. And that's both ways, and that's going to be really important. So apologizing is a skill. And some of us will struggle with that, and some of us will not. He has always been extremely humble in that way, but we were jumping past the understanding. I wanted him to hear me out of how that made me feel. Okay?
Yeah. So that's good. I'm sorry. Okay. Approach conflict with an open mind to understand the perspective of your spouse. Perspective is the blank there. And so that's two things on the perspective. One is positive and one is very negative of the open-mindedness. So and it's also important that in your marriage you have these ground rules that it's okay to talk about the conflict and not get it shut down.
Yeah.
But here's the perspective. What happens is sometimes somebody, a friend of yours, or you may go to someone, a friend, and say something about a conflict in your marriage. And then you would say to them, well, what did your spouse say? Oh, I can't talk to them about it. Because when I talk to them about it, it just blows up into a fight. So it's better just to let you know about it. Okay. And so it's very important that you guys have the ground rules and have the perspective to be able to communicate with each other. Because if you don't, you will avoid the conflict, reside in your heart, and then someday it's coming out. If you just keep burying the conflict, someday it's coming out, okay? I like what Joyce Meyer says, that when you get squeezed, whatever's inside of you is coming out, okay? And she equates it to a tube of toothpaste. So she said, I hope that it's this nice blue, shiny toothpaste, but sometimes it's black tar. And the outside of a person may not match the inside. But when you get squeezed, it's coming out. And it doesn't matter what it is, whatever comes in is coming out. Okay? So if there's unresolved conflict in you, it's coming out, and it's ugly. It is ugly. Okay? So that's why you have the perspective. Okay, Pastor, you're up.
Okay. So some of you missed the personality. We had a really good attendance last week. We knew we'd probably be down tonight with the holidays coming, but we had almost 100% attendance last week, so that's great because our video, the audio did not work on it. So if you missed that, we'll try to get you your notes and get that to you. But last week we had a great time, I think, learning our personalities, and your personality is brought into conflict, and that's why we started with that. And as we look at the personalities, you're going to see that they're, and I laid it out this way to help you understand that our sanguines in the room, you're going to be very dominant in conflict, but you're going to be dominant because you're going to talk a lot and you're going to be engaging because you're the life of the party and everything is looked from a positive perspective, and you're going to be warm. This personality usually does well in conflict because their personality is that of synergy. They just want to bring it all together. They're not looking at the negative aspect of it. They're just trying to bring it together and integrate whatever is going on. So if you're sanguine, you generally are one of the best conflict resolvers. So if you're married to one, that is going to be a good thing in your house. On the other side, the cholerics are going to have the most problem. That would be me. Cholerics in personality, in conflict, are dominant. You see the difference, but they're hostile. Why are they that way? Because we want to win. Our brains are wired to, you always, cholerics, you're always the last one talking. And you always get that last punch in, don't we? We get that, we're good. We're one-liners, can cut people's legs off really quick. And we want to get that last word in. And we have to remember, it's not about winning. If you can understand, it's not about winning. If you are married to a choleric, like I said, 2 cholerics are fireworks, so you're going to have to really get good at this. But if you're married to a choleric, you're going to have to put, we're going to talk at this at the end, some game rules and some rules that you fight fair. But with a choleric, you're going to have to understand that you're going to have to allow them. I remember one time we got into a discussion, and he's like, just talk to me like Jeff talks to you when he's sharing his feelings.
What'd you say?
That's how you talk. When Jeff is getting intimate with you, he gets quieter. When he's expressing his heart. When I'm expressing mine, I just say it in a way, don't you understand, honey? I'm trying to, and it's the coach in me, it's my choleric. And I remember one day he looked at me and says, just tone it down. I'm like, don't make me be you. I'm frustrated. Listen to how I feel. Well, I don't want to pipe it down. I don't talk like this. Okay? This is early on.
So the choleric says, let me just say this last word.
Mm-hmm. And I point my finger.
Yes, she got a little thing going
Little
like
thing
that.
going on right there.
She says, let me say this last thing, because she always has to have the last word.
Mm-hmm.
So I've learned. You okay?
Just have it. Now I'm married to a phlegmatic, which is great. He doesn't care if he wins.
I just say hurry up and say it.
Just hurry up, say it. And then he starts, fiddling in something else. He's done. So, but it's a win-lose, and it's a power. Cholerics, You can power up in conflict, and that is not going to help you one bit, depending on who you're married to. If you're married to another choleric, they're going to one-up you. And then you're going to one-up. And then you're going to have some different rules than other people. All right, melancholies. Pastor Jeff is a melancholy. I do have melancholy as well. So sometimes he just doesn't know what he's going to get. Because a melancholy can be submissive and hostile. Okay, they can be both. But they're going to, because they're very loyal, at times they will submit. So if you have a second or something that's closer to that personality, sometimes you will find yourself in that vein of things during conflict. You'll yield. Most melancholies lose, usually, because they're so loyal. And what they'll do is they'll express themselves because they're very loyal, and they know how they feel because they're very methodical. So they've already compartmentalized everything you're getting ready to talk about, and they understand why they feel the way they do. So they're very good at expressing those things, but ultimately, based on who they're working with, if a melancholy is working with a choleric, they're going to back down. They're eventually going to yield. There are people, melancholies are feelers, and they'll suppress things. All right? They'll suppress the people that are difficult to begin to figure out how they function, what they're thinking. Now we have Pastor Jeff. Our phlegmatics in the room. The phlegmatic is submissive and warm. It's a wonderful thing, but it can be a bad thing when you get your mates, and we learn that opposites generally attract. But a phlegmatic, listen, when you're doing this, you need to think about your kids. This isn't a parenting class, but you need to identify your children and how you speak to them. You need to understand their love language and their personality, because when you have conflict with them, I know my children. Spencer is dad. Calvin is dad on steroids. And when Calvin was little, even being last born, if you even raise your voice at Calvin, Leah, you raise your voice, she'd get in another tone higher. Can you imagine what her personality is? She's choleric. That's why you fight with the kids that are like you. Especially cholerics, if your kid, they go back and forth. This is such, I'm telling you, when you understand how God made you, you understand how to resolve conflict. So when you look at this chart, that's why we put it on there. Pastor Jeff will lose. He's all right to lose because he doesn't have any choleric in him. He doesn't care to win. He doesn't have any sanguine in him. So it's not about necessarily bringing integration. For him, he is a melancholy phlegmatic. So if you look, he's a yield lose and he's a lose leave.
That sounds bad.
It sounds really bad. But what it is for me is I have to fear God enough to know what I can do to his spirit in conflict. I know myself, and over years I learned to mature and handle those things better. And this is the one thing you have to understand. How many phlegmatics do we have? Just be honest. You will deny, even at times that there's even conflict. But let me tell you the secret about a phlegmatic. They'll deny it, they'll lose, they'll leave. When he says they'll lose, they'll leave, they'll deny. And then one day they get to the end of their rope and they snap. Not only do they snap, one day they get to the end of their rope and then they hang on to that rope and they're not letting go where they normally would lose. Okay? So when you understand personalities, now this is going to make sense as we talk about right here, the conflict styles. Now you were at the end, we're going to do a little bit of conversing with your mate about this, but they've labeled 5 different conflict styles. 5. The conflict styles are this. Competing. Who do you think that just might be? A low regard. Now this is what I love about this. You have a low regard for future relationship. You just want to win. So sometimes you don't think what that'll do to your child. Sometimes you don't think what that'll do to your boss or your future job. Sometimes you don't think what it will do to the spirit of your mate. Sometimes you don't even think what it'll do in the middle of a basketball game and you find yourself with a technical.
What was that?
That would be me. I had no technicals until I came down to Kentucky. I just have these referees that must be choleric. I don't know, but or not like women, one of those two. So, but you find yourself, you're not looking into the future right now, spark something in you. It's about power. It's not wrong. You're wired that way. So I want you to understand how your mate walks through conflict is how God wired them. Who are the accommodating people? High regard for future relationships. Focuses on others' needs. You can see that in a personality. That's a sanguine. That can really be a phlegmatic. They're accommodating. They go through conflict and they're sitting there focusing on others' needs. And sometimes what you'll do, they can also be melancholies because they'll suppress their own. And then it's hard to find out how they really feel inside because their personality doesn't want to really share because it could be conflictual. We have those. How many avoiders? We got avoiders in the house. They try to preserve everyone's feelings. Man, you got any kids like that? You just love them in the house. Spencer is that's my boy. He is. It's a little bit Pastor Jeff. Just avoid it. Just like, let's just get through today. Let's just avoid this because I don't like conflict. I don't like. Now, I want to encourage you, so we're going to get to this. If you have children in the house, you have grandchildren in the house, it's very important how you walk through conflict. If you have avoiders of children in the house, it will disturb them. It will really cause them to be unsettled. When I remember the day we were struggling with one of our kids, and Spencer came to me, and I had just gotten into the bed, and we had this little bit of a blowout in the house with one of the kids, and Spencer came, I just got in the bed, and he, like his daddy, he's so sweet like that, put his arm around me, leaned next to me, hugged me, and he said, "I'm so sorry they're acting like that." It's like, "I'm sorry, Mom." I mean, he's 11 years old, but he's an avoider. He did not like the conflict he was seeing within the house, and he just wanted to avoid it all. And no matter what, I'm going to avoid it at all costs. We have the compromising. Compromising is this. This is where you give and take a little. Some of you are like that. That's okay. You give and take a little. We all need to have a little bit of that. Collaborating. This is where individuals put aside their needs and wants to work towards a common goal. We've got to get to the place where we resolve, we compromise, we collaborate in ways that we get to a common goal. It's not like, okay, well, I'll do this if you do that, or I'll do this if you do that. Well, all right, we'll go to Michigan. We'll go to Michigan if you promise not to fish.
If I do what?
I'm waiting. We'll go to, I don't even care. See, my love language was time. I gave up with that a long time ago. But anyway, so this place of we sit down and you begin to work through things together towards a common goal. It's not give and take. It's this, we've got a goal. This is what whether it's your finances. We had a real problem with raising kids. And he's so right. They would go to him behind my back because they knew his answer would always be. So we put in a ground rule for that, and it caused a lot of conflict. Pastor Jeff has a huge heart. And there was something about a child that, especially his daughter, would just grab him around the leg, and he struggled with that. And we're going to learn this in a minute about how you were raised. You bring into your marriage a past, and it's there. So we made some ground rules that he knew that he couldn't say yes until he talked to me first. And it wasn't about me being able to trump it. It was about we came to a common goal to say we want what's best for the kids. So you call me, let's talk about it. Sometimes I was too hard. Sometimes I was overprotective. And sometimes he was too soft. But the common goal was that our kids, we made wise choices. We talked through those. And as we talked to those, we brought something to the table that was beneficial for each one. So you have to identify, we're going to do this later, where you are in your conflict style. because we want to get to the place where we're collaborating and working towards a goal.
Yeah. Now, one thing I think some of you may be thinking about is this is all good, but you don't know my conflict. You don't know what I'm dealing with right now. But I'm here just to speak over your life that if you value the relationship over the issue, the Lord will bring healing to your marriage. If you don't value the relationship, the conflict will stay there. Okay? And so it's pretty simple. It's pretty simple. And so, and I know most of you, that some of us have blended families. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And how are we going to raise our blended kids? So I have mine. She has hers. How are we going to raise them? Because a big conflict is how we do that. Okay? And because a man wants peace in the home. And a woman gets her identity in the home. So if the home is not a haven for the family, then it's really rough. It's really rough. So the conflict is, how are we going to raise these kids under our tutelage? Because here's the thing, they go to another house, and then how we're raising them, they maybe not be getting raised. Then we got to correct, or maybe they are getting raised. So there's just a lot of that. There's a conflict, and how do you resolve that? So here's how you resolve it. You both have to sit down and compromise how you're going to raise the kids in a blended family. Okay, you have to compromise, and it can be done. I'm a product of a blended family. Okay, so I love my stepdad, I love my stepmom, and they both did a great job helping raise me. And I attribute most of my success of how they raised me. And so I'm a product of it, and you guys can also have that be a part of your life, okay? And that's a big conflict. Here's another conflict. You know, we're just having too much sex.
Sorry.
I mean, we're not having enough. By the way, next week we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, we will have 100% attendance next week.
But it can be a conflict, right? It can be a conflict. Okay? It's all he wants is sex. And it can be a conflict. Okay? But I'll say this to you. A great marriage will always produce a great sex life. But a great sex life will never produce a good marriage. Okay? So it's the byproduct of the marriage. Okay? But it's a conflict. Okay? You know, I can't keep her hands off me,
Yeah.
you know.
Let's talk about finances, honey.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Finances.
as we just get you guys have some conversations. So focus on rather than one issue. Maybe sometimes when we get into conflict, we just go everywhere.
Right.
This isn't right, and that's not right, and just stay one at a time. And if it goes to many, it just shows that there's unresolved conflict. Okay? You should be able to stay with one. Focus on the problem, not the person. Behavior rather than the character. Be specific, because when you get to generalizations, it's not good. You're like this all the time. All the time? Well, you know what I mean. Right? Because then that just makes it worse. Stay to the facts instead of the judgment of the motives. I know why you're doing this. The I statement used instead of the you statement. Focus on understanding rather than who's winning or losing. And focus on blessings rather than the insults. And when you focus on those, when you have unresolved conflict, the reason we just want to spend this time right now is that you can lose control of your marriage. And you can't even wrap your arms around it and get it back. And so it's so important that you value the relationship more than the issue in order to resolve it. Okay? You hear me? Because I'm coming after you if you don't. And I want to just share this. Pastor Dean is going to finish up. But remember early when we first started, I said I've never been able to turn a hard heart around. And I don't say that because I know everything. I don't know hardly anything. But meaning that when we're sitting there with a couple and then one of them just says, I don't care what the Lord says. I don't care what the pastor says. I don't care what he says. I don't care what she says. I don't want to be married to this person anymore. You know what? That meeting's over. So a year ago, I had that couple. That was the meeting. And I'm here to tell you that today they're still together. And I called them today on my way here to tell you this. I said, what was your secret? We decided we weren't going to give up. I said, how's that working out for you? We decided we weren't going to give up. Amen. Hallelujah. Okay, Pastor Dina.
Really circle the one that Pastor Jeff put, the I statement. Focus on how you feel when you start using you. So let me take you through just a couple of these that will make sense to you with focus on rather than. If we take the situation of going to Michigan tomorrow night, we'll be back Saturday night, but going for a few days. What happens is I could begin the conversation with like, you know, babe, we're going up to Michigan, and I know you want to hunt with your brothers. Now, I'm already, assuming, you always fish. You always hunt. I know Thursday morning, now I'm just unloading with accusations. You're going to hunt Thursday, you're going to go out with the guys Thursday, you're going to Wednesday, you're going to do this, and you know what? It's always like, we go home and we do this, and you just got a deer. You just got a big deer. So have you not had enough hunting yet? Do you see how it can be like you? I'm now bringing back deer, and I'm way off topic, and we're not even talking about vacation anymore. And what happens is when you begin to walk through conflicts, it begins to be all generalized, and you begin to say, you always do this, and now we get way off topic, and now begins to be like you don't even understand me. One thing that will really help you that's not down here, guys, this will help you, is repeat what you feel like you're hearing them say. When they, vice versa, begin to share how they feel, when you can repeat, now, I'm hearing you, Pastor Jeff is very good at this. I'm hearing you say that it bothers you when we go on vacation and I'm not getting much time with you. Is that what you're saying? What does that do for me? It validates how I feel. Doesn't mean how I feel is right. We haven't resolved anything. It really is going to be important that you stop. I'm going to step you through some things, but if you can get this checklist down on the facts, I don't even know what he's doing, and I'm already assuming it. I don't know facts at all. But I'm beginning to judge and beginning to judge his motives. Have you ever said that you just don't care about me anymore? All you care about is yourself. All you want to do is spend money on this. For Pete's sakes, you've got 7 cameras. How many of them do you need? See, I'm already assuming that he spent money on it when he just used free points. But I've already gone there. I've already gone there with accusation. And we don't do that anymore. That's just, we become better skilled at the fact that we don't even start there. We start with, remember, great conflict, great intense fellowship, great fighting ends with a resolution, a common goal, and getting to that. So, an important checklist. This is going to be important as you go through. Check your motivation. What is your motivation? Remember, the common goal, if you can't even state the goal, then sometimes motivation gets out there. You want to make sure, we're going to take you through the steps, that your words are not divisive. Your words are not accusatory. Your words are building, blessing, bringing healing, not judging, breaking down, demeaning. I'll tell you this as well with kids. I can't tell you the people I've counseled whose dad or mom said you're worthless in the middle of being mad in the middle of a fight and conflict. We've all done it. We've all done it. But as we grow, we need to check our motivation. We need to check our attitude. Meaning this, we call it, even on our staff, it's called carefrontation, not confrontation. If my attitude is I care about what's in your best interest, in our best interest, in our family's best interest, not bulldozing. Cholerics, you're going to be a bulldozer. You're going to start that engine, and you're going to have a hard time pulling that plow back. All right? So you really have to work on your attitude. Your attitude is a common goal. Your attitude is not to win. Your attitude is just not to have peace. He wants to have peace, and so how he feels is never expressed. Can't hide. You do have an opinion. You do have feelings. And if you don't share your feelings, you never come to a resolution. If you cannot share your feelings on the matter, you will never come to a resolution because how you feel is not stated. This is important. Check your circumstances. Timing is everything. Look at your spouse and say, timing is everything. Timing is everything. Location. Do not have conflict resolution in your car with 3 kids in it. Do not. Do not have intensity. There are some things, I don't know why we're raising kids to think they should know everything about anything. They don't. They cannot handle it. Do not have conflict in the wrong place at the wrong time. A public restaurant is not a good idea. Okay? Timing, location, setting is important. Check, these are checks. Check your external pressures, meaning this. Your spouse just lost their job. It wouldn't be a great day to be talking about your finances in a way that's conflictual. Your mate just lost a parent. Your mate has been diagnosed with something. Your pressures. There are times that those conversations are going to blow or they're going to hide because they're just pressures. So you got to check the pressure point. He's real good with me. How's your day, babe? Oh, man, I've had a great day. It's been awesome. That's a good day to have some conversation about some common goals. But not a day when I walk through and, like, I lose a game at night and I get in 11 o'clock. He's already snoring, but if he were to be awake, wouldn't be a good night because there's already just this pressure that you're feeling, all right? 7 steps to resolve conflict. We're going to take you through them. We talked about it. We've already talked some of these. Manage stress quickly while remaining alert and calm. Manage stress quickly. When there is tension, identify it and don't bury it. Identify it, manage it quickly, and you say, well, you don't know my life. Yes. Hey, babe, I notice we got to talk about this. Let's put it on our calendar. Let's do it at this time. Let's put the kids to bed. And tonight, no phones, no nothing. We are going, put it on a calendar. Don't let it go weeks and weeks and weeks. If there's something that needs to be discussed or there's conflict in a situation, one of the things talking about where our kids went to school, that was huge as it came into our finances and scholarships and where do we do it and how and letting them kind of have a feel for that. It was very conflictual with us because we were feeling the stress of it and they needed to make decisions and what is the best thing to do with that. So make sure that sometimes you will not resolve the conflict always in that moment. It may take several times and you're waiting on some other information to come together, but make sure that you are alert. You're alert to a conflict. All right? Control your emotions and behavior. That is huge. Control your emotions and behavior. Doesn't mean you can't cry. Doesn't mean you can't express without yelling. I can express firmly how I feel. Doesn't mean you can't express frustration. Those words we chose very carefully. Controlled emotion, not out of control. I'll tell every man that's a choleric, when you raise your voice, you're not a woman. You do not understand the fear that's put into a woman when you raise your voice and it doesn't feel safe. It's different when women get in cat fights and they raise their voice or something that's non-threatening to them in that situation. But because you're a man, it can be an environment that's not trusting and can close if it injects any kind of fear or non-safety. So guys, make sure that you're careful with that. Ladies, bring it up, bring it together. It's really hard for a guy to have you sit there so out of control with crying and crying and crying that he can't even understand what you're saying. That's out of control emotions. It's not the time to talk about it right then. Take some time, get your emotions. There are times when I'm frustrated and it's not time to talk because it would just go on forever that Pastor Jeff would say, why don't you just take a drive, take a walk. When you come back, we'll talk about it. But we put a time on it that we talk about it. Keep your emotions under control. 3, pay attention to words being expressed. Pay attention to your words. Don't use words like always, never. It's never always. You'll get that in a minute. Just don't use those. Don't call them names. Don't speak for them. You don't care about me. You don't care about this family. You hate me. You're speaking how they feel. They didn't say they felt that way. Your words are going to be huge. Matter of fact, your words are some of the greatest tools in getting yourself through a conflict. Now, this is going to be important. Beware of and respect the differences. I know how he was raised. He knows how I was raised. He was raised in a very peaceful home. I was raised in a very peaceful home. We handle conflicts growing up very different. His parents handle conflict different than my parents. There are things that have happened in your life. Guys, if you're married to a gal that's father was abusive, you can never raise your voice. They will bring healing, that will come in time, but I am telling you that will trigger them very quickly. So be aware of how even he handles conflict as compared to me. I'm aware that I can shut him down. I'm aware of his personality that can just leave the middle of that conversation. I'm aware that even in conflict resolution, he probably won't land somewhere because he's phlegmatic. He's got to think about it longer. We may not have an answer right there, and I don't even expect it. All right? So be aware of those things. And I put it this way, defeat selfishness. All you cholerics, all you got to win people. Understand your motive. Is it about you? I really have gotten to this place with him. I think he'll hunt. I think he'll fish. And it brings me great joy. Because I live here. And he doesn't get to see his family or his brothers. And the older you get, you realize, I don't know how many more times that'll be. And I'm passionate about going up to Michigan. He was passionate about getting me home. And I'm passionate about whatever you want to do. Enjoy it, babe. Have a wonderful time. It brings me joy. See, well, it's not about me. But I'm full. See, when your love languages are empty, that's tough. And that's where love languages come in. If you will keep your spouse full in their love language, conflicts happen a whole lot less. Because self is full. So this isn't even conflictual to me. Because he's filled me to overflowing. I had a long, long day yesterday. Came in about 8 o'clock and he had dinner on the table. Ready. Here, babe. I'm not even really acts of service. I've started to be that way because life is making a shift, even more than time. But I'm full. So know that, all right? Defeat self. Get yourself out of the way. Get your thoughts out of the way. Get your attitude out of the way. Get your things that are coming in out of the way. See, you don't go in with this is how it's going to end. When you go into conflict, you have no clue what the end decision is going to be. Why? Because you're collaborating together for a goal. You're working together to get a goal. So you don't have a preconceived, this is the way it's going to be. Pursue the other person. How many avoiders? Come on, raise your hand. I want to make that, look around if that's your spouse. Avoiders will try to isolate themselves. you have to pursue them. You have to say, babe, listen, tomorrow night, babe, I acknowledge that I think we've got some things going on here. Can we talk about this? Now, the people who don't like conflict and aren't avoiders, you're going to push them over the edge. Because their personality but you're pursuing them in love and respecting them and not making it about that. You can't go to sleep because you know there's a problem and you want it fixed. I like things fixed. I don't like things undone. But if he's not ready to talk about it, he's not like that. He's willing to talk about it. But if you've got an avoider, pursue them. No, don't let them get isolated for a length of time. And you're going to have to forgive. You're going to have to be really good. This is the whole key to conflict resolution is forgiveness with humility. Yeah. You are going to forgive each other over and over and over and over again. Jesus said 70 times 7. I mean, however many times you're like, I'm at 95 times 7. That's okay. But I always tell people who are married, there is unconditional love that flows through your veins because Jesus Christ is the Lord of your life. And anything can be forgiven, and anything can be restored, and anything can be redeemed. It can. You can work through anything if both of you will walk into the maturity of Christ, forgive and let God heal. Forgiveness is a choice. Healing is a process. Remember that. Forgiveness is a choice. Healing is a process. Just because your spouse has forgiven you doesn't mean the damage that you've done doesn't take time to heal. So choose your words carefully, because usually some of the greatest damage is through the words that have been spoken. All right, so the top 10. We love this. The top 10. You want to say something, babe?
No, I'll do the second one. You do the first one.
Okay, babe.
So you got to have rules. Put them on the refrigerator. That's how we get it. We do it. Okay, go ahead.
Know your game plan. You want the second one?
Yeah, what is your game plan?
We have a game plan. We work with couples all the time, and we say, put them on your refrigerator. This is our rules.
You know what our game plan is? She wins.
No, he's kidding. What our game plan is, one of them is this: we don't talk to each other when our emotions aren't in control, which he never has a problem with. I do. So when I'm too frustrated or I'm too over the edge with a situation, he'll say, now, when you're ready, I'm ready to talk to you. He's always just, because he doesn't care if he wins, he's just willing to talk about it. We struggled early on because he really looked at it like it doesn't matter what she thinks, she's going to do it my way. That's the truth. But I'll listen all she wants me to listen. Just have at it, babe. Not going to yell because we got kids in the house. It's not healthy to yell. But deep down, he went into it knowing he's going to make the final decision. That's the way it's going to be anyway. We've changed that. It's now about collaboration. It's not, and I picked that up on him. That, it's just a matter of you're just going to do it your way anyway because you know everything. See, that's not good conflict resolution. We used to have those conversations, and now I'm making accusations. So we have gotten very skilled at, if I'm frustrated, and I can't remember the last time I was really like that. It's been years and years and years. We just have learned, I've grown and matured, and I've learned it doesn't help me to raise my voice and and express my frustration in ways that he can't relate to. So we identify the problem. We start with a game plan of no raising the voice. We are going to stay on task. Put this big on your notes. It's all about the art of the next question. This man has taught me this. If you ask a question in a non-sarcastic, non-sarcastic, non-motive, non-agenda way, and you ask them, man, how did that make you feel? It's the greatest question you can ask in conflict. How do you feel? How did I make you feel? How does this make you feel? That question always brings understanding. And let me tell you something, you can't argue. You cannot argue with a feeling. You can never argue. Cholerics, you cannot tell them they can't feel that way. You can't. You can't argue feelings, all right?
I'm going to do two and three. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, babe.
Let's have a little conflict.
Why you're having it, you got to know why you're having it. You got to know where you're going to have those meetings for the most part, when, all right, and some of the gamers. Go ahead.
She touched on it, but we've defined that we're never going to raise our voice, okay? This is a rule.
Yeah.
And then number 2, define what must always happen when we have conflict is we never go to bed if it's unresolved. We never go to bed if it's not resolved. So those are our 2 rules. We never raise our voice, and we never, ever go to bed if it's not resolved.
And the other thing that we do is this. We always apologize. And this is what we do. I look at him and say, I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm sorry I made you. Put this statement down. It is one of the most healing if you're humble. I'm sorry I made you feel that way. You're validating their feelings. You may not agree with them. You may sit there and go, oh, good Lord, are we going to deal with this again? But you're being genuine and say, I made you feel that way. That closed your spirit, all right? Acknowledge the problem. There's no resolution if you cannot both sit there and say, this is the problem we're trying to resolve. Listen and stay 100% in the moment. You have got to stay in that moment. Now, you may have to say, take a break. Maybe the rule goes, we're going to go 30 minutes and stop. Whatever. You choose your game rules, all right? Put yourself in their shoes. It's one of the greatest things that makes it fair. Do your best. You're dying to yourself and say, I can see why. I can see how he's feeling that way. I can see why she's feeling. When you can do that, you're on your way, all right? Don't hit below the belt, and you know what I mean. You know those triggers. You know, and one that drives him nuts is like, you're just like your dad. Dad is below the belt. We don't do that. You're just like your mom. That is below the belt. That you have your own. You know what they are, all right? Identify the frustration. If you can identify, now you're saying, I understand what's frustrating you. I understand what the problem is. I understand how this made you feel. I understand. And so if you don't keep asking the questions till you begin to have understanding, it's about understanding the other person. And now we get to the place of, may not happen the first time, explore the solutions. If we were walking through the situation, he would say, what feels good to you? Not that we're compromising, but we're beginning to work through, okay, I'll just hunt in the morning, and let's do something as a family in the afternoon. And it is a compromise, but it's collaboration. And this one is really important. Always end on a good note. Do not slam doors, walk out doors. I could tell you stories. I could tell you stories of people that they didn't get another chance. I got 2 that I know of for sure. They never got another chance because they argued, the door slammed, and they were months and months and months, and the person died, and they didn't get the resolution. And I'm just telling you, always tell them you love them. Always look them in the eyes and validate them. You may agree to disagree and may not be at that place yet, but always end on a good note.
And we got some questions for you as we close up tonight. So I want to conflict is a natural part of growth and family living. Conflict is a natural part of growth and family living. Does that just excite you or what? Hallelujah. Now, I don't go praying for conflict. And then many conflicts are simply symptoms of something else. Rarely is the conflict a symptom. It's something going on somewhere. And then the last part is most people don't know how to deal openly with conflict because they've never been taught how to deal with them effectively. And so we give you a couple pointers here now to do
All right, so we're going to do this. This won't take long.
Questions. Thank you.
We're going to let you go through some connection time. So the first thing on the screen tonight is this. Identify, as if you don't know, this will not take more than 1 minute, 30 seconds. As a matter of fact, we're not even going to stop. I want you to look at, as far as put on music, but go ahead and talk to your spouse about which one is your conflict style. Meaning this, Jeff would be probably more at compromising than collaborating. We're getting better at the collaboration is the best, where you work towards the goal rather than just give the other person and take. Which one are you? Which one are your spouse? You may already know that.
Hey, if you...
All right, next one. It won't take us 5 minutes. I gotta take care of the Christmas tree stuff. Next one. Describe how you view your current conflict resolution in marriage. Now, this is going to be really interesting. Is the way right now you resolve conflict, is it a trump card every time? Meaning you always win, I always lose. It's a tug of war. There is no resolution. It's always back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and we never get to a resolve. Some of you, it's avoiding the elephant in the room. That's what we do. We just avoid the elephant in the room. This is you together. This is when you bring each other together. It's a heavyweight boxing championship. Some of you, that's what it is. Or this is the best conflict resolution. It's win-win. And to win-win, you got to drop the rope, look at that person in the eye, validate them, die to yourself, and come to a common goal. It's a win-win. Take a minute, talk about why you are or why you feel you are in those categories, or which one is your conflict resolution style. Be honest with one another. All right, next one. Next one. Ask your spouse, which one of the focus on points do you do best? We're not going to spend long on this. Just look down at that list, the focus on points. Which one do you do best? And which one needs improvement? Now, no accusations and no words, not even say why. Okay, you can talk about this when you get home. we don't want to start the process of anything, but just be honest, because this is about truth and transparency. Which one they do best on the focus on, and which one do they need some improvement on? Don't say why. Just say, I think this one needs some improvement, babe. You've got 30 seconds. All right, last one. Last one. This week, this is your challenge this week. Define your game plan. That's what I want you guys to do. Go home and discuss your game plan. Define what never happens and define what must happen. Those first three things, you guys need to get together and talk through these things. Your game plan, this is what never happens. This is what must always happen. We do more than just say, we love you. We don't even go to bed and turn our backs to each other. We cuddle before bed. We have a time of and we're going to learn this with sex. Sex isn't the place to fix it. Guys, I know you think you can. You think she's upset, and I'll make her feel all better, and she'll forget about it. She doesn't. She's not even engaged in that. I'm just telling you, because she brings her emotions to bed, not her body. You're going to learn that next week. But I want to say this. Go over those three areas. Whatever you guys, it may take you a few days of working through it. Come up with your game plan. All right, let's stand to our feet. We'll pray, and then we'll be out of here. Father, we thank you for our time together. Thank you that there'll be peace. I just speak in the name of Jesus. Peace over every home. Peace and great skills of Christ in and through them, of his love, of his forgiveness, of his understanding, of his compassion, of his wisdom of the Holy Spirit as they walk through the struggles and the trials and the challenges of life. And I thank you they'll be stronger and stronger and stronger. In Jesus' name, amen.